Welcome to Epistemic Violence, the number one podcast run by Ron Paul newsletter Ghostwriters. We're a podcast of libertarians, not specifically a podcast about libertarianism, but we'll cover current events, tech, more general topics. I'm your host, Satan, and with me tonight are...
Crinton, coming over from Maryland.
And Pierre from Kanakistan.
Alright, good shit. Let's start off with politics. So, quick rundown of what we got here for politics today. We've got Perez, we got the Milo and the CPAC shit, got Antifa shutting down black metal concerts, the shooting at He Will Not Divide Us, PewDiePie, and robot commies.
Alright.
Yeah, Crinton, did you want to start off with Perez? You seem to know a bit more about that than I do.
Sure. Like we were kind of talking about before the show, I'm not by any stretch an expert on Tom Perez as a person or his role in the DNC as an operative, but by exposure and osmosis through NPR and all this other stuff that I get on the daily basis, I've been a little bit privy to like the kind of race and how it's actually been pretty oddly competitive since Democrats have been completely obliterated at all levels and tiers of government. So this has actually been a little bit interesting to watch because there's a lot of talk simultaneously, and we'll probably get into this a bit, about, the Tea Party and parallels between how the left's acting now as opposed to how Republicans were acting, 2010, 2009. And so it's been very interesting to see this kind of mirroring happen on the Democrat side, which we're always championed as being this stable, rigid, unified body. But this election just totally unraveled it. So, I think we should definitely get started off if you guys have any initial thoughts on it or questions.
DNC insider Crinton here.
Leaker in chief Crinton here.
I know about as much of this topic as you do about interwar Swiss prototype semi-automatic rifles, Crinton, so I'm kind of useless on this topic.
Word.
I think it's a good thing. But
do you guys remember the Tea Party days and whatnot? Does that even kind of ring a bell in your immediate memory?
I
remember that.
I was in middle school, I think, and I watched a lot of Glenn Beck back then, so it's all a little bit hazy.
Sure. No, as Fox News does make your life a little hazy.
There were lots of chalkboards.
I was like a pretty big shitlib at the time, watching the Daily Show and Colbert Report every night, and they used to call them teabaggers, which I thought was hilarious. So that's what I remember the Tea Party from, a really leftist Canadian liberal perspective. I thought they were the best people ever at the time.
Yeah,
I came in as a Republican, and I remember they started sort of a constitutionalists and just sort of government get out, fuck off, I don't want to pay more in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And then from what I understand about the history, I'm not an expert on this, the Republican establishment kind of came in, and then it got all cucky from there.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. It definitely, it produced people into the limelight like Sarah Palin again, even after she was crushed in 2008. It brought up people like Michelle Bachmann and Ted Cruz, which still haunt us to this day. So people like that. But yeah, you definitely when I think of those protests, they were largely peaceful. People who, in some cases, if it weren't in DC or something like that, some of these protests were open carrying. A lot of Gadsden flag imagery, a lot of taxes that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, it was a lot of local grassroots disruption, kind of like what you're seeing with the town halls now. It's kind of contentious apparently between whether or not the Democrats really want to go back to being out of power and be like the Republicans, be like a party of no, we're just going to shut everything down. Because even though that from a pragmatic standpoint is pretty poor on the Republicans to have just been no to Obama all 8 years. Clearly, it was successful, and clearly it was a pretty savvy move because here they are with complete control over state legislatures, over the federal government, in the Congress, and in the executive branch, and now we're appointing a conservative to the board of the Supreme Court justices.
So catch me up here on the higher level strategy. How does that relate to Perez?
Sure.
From what I've heard, he's sort of like a fundraiser type of guy. He's not I don't know exactly how to say it.
No, so he's definitely an operative type. He's definitely let's give the whole timeline in a nutshell. Is that You have Debbie Wasserman Schultz from your favorite state in the world, Satan, who is an embarrassment in my opinion to the entire notion of being a Democrat. But she got pretty much shamed out of office in the middle of Hillary Clinton's campaign, and then brought on to be an advisor for Hillary Clinton. But the acting chair, as now Tom Perez is assumed to take over, the acting chair was none other than as I'm blanking on her name, but it's that I want to say Diane. It'll come to me later. But she's the acting one. The one lady who basically leaked a bunch of CNN questions to Hillary Clinton when she was gearing up for the debates. Is just casually the DNC chair acting at the moment.
Was she black?
She is. No, she's a black lady. I just can't remember her last name. But she's been a commentator and political agent for decades. But at any rate, so now it's time to elect someone for real. Now that the dust has settled after the election. And he was Obama's labor secretary. So he's definitely an effective operative, and he's definitely a very establishment type pick. And there were some other types who were running in the race against him. I'm trying to pull up as we speak. The person who's running predominantly against him was more of a Bernie type. So it's just kind of highlighting that even though he's more of the establishment pick, there's a lot of fissures erupting in the DNC as we speak.
So the DNC is sticking to their losing strategy of establishment and fundraising types who are good at just that and don't have any popular appeal.
Yeah. No, I mean, you nailed it pretty much. I just don't know if Tom Perez is like really got some original thought or like real vision and direction in a new way that just hasn't really kind of been shining through. But
didn't they kind of suppress the other candidates a little bit as well?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, these are all Democrats we're talking about running against one another. They tried to make it a big point to signal to one another, and I bet you would get a love out of this, Pierre. In that they all went up on stage. We're like, we're all friends up here. We're not going to just tear each other down and like do all that kind of stuff. Like just blatantly just jacking off one another up on stage. So, it's definitely them sticking to their guns, and it will be interesting to see if it'll actually trickle down from an ideological sense.
I think this is fantastic.
If there's one thing I've learned from David Angelo, is that you just got to keep trickling, and eventually it'll all work out.
Yeah.
So speaking of popular appeal, I think. Well, wait. Did you have something more on this, Spear?
I was just gonna say about like this whole situation. It's just great. It's so nice to watch the left implode. Like as much
Rapidly
as they are. After watching neocons run the Republican establishment in like Canada and the US, it's great to see like the left equivalent of like just corporate shills doing the same thing. It just warms the cockles of my heart.
Mm-hmm. And to not only that, but to watch them in their death throes, like so violently, still violently in the political sense, repress that like grassroots, organic, Bernie type. As much as we may disagree with obviously almost line for line everything Bernie and Bernie supporters have to say and do, at least they're rather honest and blunt about how they want what they want, and it's pretty distinct from what your typical statist Democrat wants. It's so funny how they still stomp on each other's dicks, to quote Starfisker.
Yeah, I think Bernie has less support with the mainstream as well.
Definitely,
like, people are like, "Oh, if Bernie ran, he would have won." Like, I highly doubt that. I mean, Clinton is a household name. Most people don't pay attention to the news. Had very little, didn't care about the emails, or knew very little about them.
Right.
Like she still won the popular vote. Enough people liked Clinton to vote for her. I highly doubt enough people would have came out and to vote for Bernie Sanders,
right?
Like a hardcore socialist. Like that's not what the majority of America wants. I don't think.
Right. I mean, had they ran someone who was actually genuinely likable, unlike Hillary Clinton, I mean, the Democrats actually could have beat out Trump. And especially given how contentious the popular vote was. I firmly believe
Tim Kaine
that.
could have won.
Yeah, I mean, if he was the front runner, and let's not forget, this was a decently close election between Trump and Hillary, but Obama destroyed and obliterated John McCain, and then he did it just slightly less to Mitt Romney. Yet Hillary Clinton barely, lost, but barely lost to Trump. There's clearly a huge gap, in like what people actually like out of the Democrats, and Hillary Clinton certainly wasn't one of them.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
So,
and it was Donna Brazier, or Brazil, or how do you actually pronounce her last name?
Brazier,
anyway,
like that.
Yeah. With regards to the whole popular support thing, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about alienating a lot of your base and Milo and CPAC.
Yeah.
Does anyone like to take the lead on this, or?
Oh, I would love to.
Please
go for it. Bo.
This is the death throes of the conservatives. It's amazing. They're seeing like the new right, either it being alt right or like just regular right leaning libertarians. That they said that they co-opted the Republican, like the Republican Party, but it's like, no, you're just becoming obsolete. Like neocons and conservatives are becoming obsolete, and they're being replaced by the new right and lots of libertarians too, right libertarians, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, I remember just a few years ago being genuinely concerned about how it was, Donald Rumsfeld and types of neocons who were just going to basically run conservatism into the ground in the mind's eye in the public forum and whatnot. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, they're shaking off and finally becoming the outer skin that needs to get taken care of.
Because what they did was, I'm not exactly sure in the details, but they kind of like really attacked Milo on his like weird pederasty comment.
Who did CPAC or like the old neocons or?
It was people at CPAC, like just a bunch of like neocons and conservatives did, like the kind of not the Republican elected establishment, but like the Republican Party establishment really went after him.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense because
they did the same thing to Richard Spencer, who I'm not a huge fan of.
That's not a surprise though.
Yeah, it's not a surprise, but still, like I think that just these people that are coming into your party, you're accusing them of co-opting it when they're not. Like it's just, I think it's funny to watch them watch the death throes of them.
They're young blood coming in with new ideas. It's not, you'll be gone soon.
And
don't worry about it.
And Pierre, I mean, if you have something to say on this, please. The one thing I've taken away from CPAC is that there's still a lot of cohesion on the right side of things that still has to take place and chooch a little bit. I mean, the whole idea of whether or not Trump's policies and things that he's expressed are truly conservative through and through is still kind of a catch-22 for them, for these neocons and whatnot who are finding themselves irrelevant, because there's tons of social issues, for example, that Trump just doesn't care about.
That's why they're irrelevant. They're like, you're co-opting our party. It's like, no, Donald Trump has an R next to his name. He's a Republican. Like, this is what the new right wants. This is what you don't want. Like, they fought like so hard they fought Trump so hard at every turn, and he's still won, and it's because of this new support that he's getting. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous. And I can't remember. I think it was on the Gavin McInnes show the other day, where they're talking. It was Dave Smith talking about how all of these neocons are pretending to have like this moral high ground over Trump, posturing at CPAC, saying his actions are disgusting because he said something bad about about women or Mexicans or whatever. It's like these neocons are responsible for wars. Like, they kill people. These are murderers,
and they themselves are not very friendly to those groups either.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I care very little about those groups.
Sure.
In the big scheme of things, like whatever. But like, yeah, I care a lot more about someone killing someone. It's just ridiculous that they think they have the moral high ground.
No, absolutely. Yeah, they weren't taking the moral high ground when it came to enhanced interrogation.
Yeah.
Pierre, I think you're not sufficiently taking into account the effect of epistemic violence on women and minorities.
Oh my goodness! Like, I can't believe it.
And now we can make this joke.
Believe it.
I need to say, 3 trigger warnings and
Yeah, no.
It seems like.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It seems like the old guard conservatives are basically just being politically opportunist and taking whatever shots they can at the new right, because they just don't want to lose power. Like even things that they wouldn't have cared about before. Which I mean, that's just typical establishment politics as usual. It's not really a party thing.
I think this is a good thing though, because now that the right's in power, it's the time for infighting. You don't want them infighting in 4 years when Trump's up for re-election. Like
True.
the new right needs an enemy to fight against, and that enemy, now that the Democrats are like absolutely reeling from it to like a horrible loss, they can finally mow the lawn of the Republican establishment to reveal the snakes.
This is true. Yeah, strategically now would be a good time to deal with like the growing pains of the Trump movement and things like that.
Yeah. Now, are we talking about people like, for example, like Ron or Paul Ryan and John McCain, who have said, hey, maybe you shouldn't ban these newspapers from coming to your press conferences? Or are we talking about people like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, who are like, were so diehard against Trump, and now they're just like, they're I've lost the term for it, but now they're essentially just complete mouthpieces for the whole movement and the whole insurgency that Trump has sold.
The old guard primarily,
Gotcha.
probably the new ones as well, but I think the latter is a lot more of an important issue, and but Milo said controversial things. That's more like a there's bigger fish to fry.
Mhm.
Deal with them eventually. Once you've dealt with the John McCain's, the Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham,
Mhm.
rather.
Lindsey Graham cracker.
Then they'll probably just go along with the new shit.
Yeah,
Maybe. Yeah,
I mean, I
think
see
they all
Mitch
have to
McConnell
go,
being a little more savvy in that sense. Mitch McConnell has definitely been like patting. I wouldn't say patting the books. It's not the connotation I mean, but been definitely very favorable to prioritizing legislative agendas in favor of Trump, and not just at the White House, but in favor of Trump. So,
can we popularize the nickname Mitch Tortuga McConnell? Because I don't know if you guys saw that video. They edited his head onto a tortoise.
Yes,
and his neck was just jiggling about.
That was great. Yeah.
Yes, we can. We need a side tube GIF for that. On a side note, but at any rate, yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how people either flip or just made irrelevant and lose their seats in the Congress and whatnot. Both on the Democrat side and on the obviously the conservative side, because like we were saying earlier about the DNC, I mean, regardless of Tom Perez winning, there's a lot of people who didn't want Tom Perez to win, and they're either going to have to readapt, change their message, or get out of the way for the new DNC, as it were. So
stop it, Trump! I can't stand this much winning.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, do we want to talk about Milo specifically, or is Milo just more of like a jumping off point to talk about strategic stuff?
I'm curious about Milo just because I've stayed very much away from it, because I just didn't really care too much when I initially heard about it, because I had seen that these comments were from about a year ago. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's what I understand. Yeah.
Could either of you bring me up to speed as to what roughly he said, if not exactly he said, versus how was that coinciding with his speaking and book publication and whatnot?
He got diddled by a priest in high school, and apparently, like, he says he was okay with it, and like age of consent fuckery, standard business. Yeah. He definitely could have phrased it a lot better. He didn't do himself any favors, and it's pretty gray.
He said like it could be a positive experience, like a coming of age sort of story, and it's like that's pretty bad. If you're 13 getting like diddled by someone, and you hear someone say that, like that really, like it's kind of inappropriate.
I agree. No, that like I saw his apology about the whole situation. And I thought that he executed that pretty well, not knowing too much about why people were initially upset. But yeah, that's hard to defend.
It was also incredibly suspiciously timed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Podcast happens a year ago. CPAC 2016 rolls around, and pedophile.
Yeah, and then the left suddenly cares about pedophiles again when Salon deleted their last article they had on a guy saying that like I'm a pedophile, not a monster.
But
where he
there's
talks.
archives of that.
Oh yeah, there is. Definitely recommend looking it up. It is disgusting.
Ugh, Salon and Raw
but
story, no thank you.
I think they deleted it, and they ran another story about how Milo was like gross because he did this. Like, so hey, if it's making liberals care about pedophiles again,
If
maybe
it's
there is some good that's going to come
if
out
it's
of it.
victim blaming, that the left wants to initiate in after being so butthurt about it, no pun intended, for so many years at this point, like. Because that's the thing that I'm kind of it's getting lost to me. I'm like, he was like everything. Everyone's losing the fact that he was lost, like he was molested as a child. Like that's pretty traumatic. Regardless of whether he was, in the moment okay with it because he didn't like really understand everything that was kind of going on. Like he is a victim of something rather traumatic. I'm talking about the general, not necessarily people in our crew, but like the general public discord about it.
Yeah. That's good. Do we want to move into the more casual stuff in the politics?
Yeah, this is too much winning. I can't like.
Okay, so we got Antifa, He Will Not Divide Us, PewDiePie, and Robot Commies. Anyone have a preference for that?
Let's start with Antifa. I wanna hear what those.
Alrighty. So in Oakland, there's a venue there, and they were going to host a black metal band, Marduk, and one other group. It doesn't matter. I think Marduk was the main one in contention. For those who aren't familiar, Marduk is a black metal band, and their topics typically include, Satanism, blasphemy, war, all that good stuff. But they also specifically focus on things like World War II and the Nazi government and Nazi history.
Like Sabaton, like or.
More like they're a black metal band. They sing about evil shit. Hey, the Nazis are some evil shit. Kind of makes sense.
Gotcha.
Taking like more of like a dark spin on World War II history, like the evil twin of Sabaton. Right? They're not.
Great.
Yeah. They've specifically come out and said no, we're not. Saying this is good. We sing about dark stuff. This was dark stuff, so we sang about it. So they've got songs about like the SS and Panzers, and they have an album called Panzer Division Marduk, and it's a pretty good album if you like black metal. And so naturally, Antifa, being retards, they looked at probably just the album art and maybe some song names and decided these guys are Nazis. And they threatened to riot at the venue, so the venue shut down. And apparently there was some fuckery. Maybe the police didn't do what they were supposed to. Maybe the venue fucked up. That's the quick rundown.
And you said that was in Oakland,
rev up those helicopters.
Come again?
You can go ahead.
Oh, I was saying rev up those helicopters.
Yeah, for sure. You're saying that was going on in Oakland?
Yeah. California,
yeah,
I believe.
The Bay Area doesn't surprise me, but wow,
yeah,
way to respect
California.
Everyone and their diverse views and preserving the liberties and free speech and dignity of people. All the things that the left clearly has abandoned, despite chanting it over and over.
I really hope there's been some efforts to have like an anti-Antifa group with the anti-communist action groups. And I really hope they start to take off and can kind of counter signal and counter protest these Antifa, especially non-violently. It'll look so good if just a bunch of people show up and are like, show up to their events and say like, you stop us from talking, we're gonna stop you from talking. It would be great.
Yeah, or if they took that another page out of their book and was just like, we're going to create a free speech safe space like you guys were doing in Mizzou's campus and all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking about like that one, like what was it? I think she was ironically enough a professor of journalism and media or something like that, but she was adamantly shutting people's speech down and right to record and everything in public.
Beautiful.
Yes, Melissa Click, when she called for, quote, some muscle to physically remove a journalist from covering the protests at Mizzou a couple years back.
Yeah. Now they're no more better than like the Bush administration, like physically removing Reuters reporters with helicopters.
Like, I think it would look so good for conservatives just to show up there, and because they have a more of a respect for property rights, there's not going to be any Starbucks windows getting smashed.
Right.
Um,
You're not gonna get a
like
random
just
person getting pepper sprayed, yeah, in the middle of an interview.
yeah,
a lesbian Bitcoin activist getting pepper sprayed.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh god, that was so triggering. But like,
Violent communists spray pepper spray a peaceful lesbian woman at Berkeley.
Yeah.
Best timeline.
what I want is Trump legionaries, just people to dress up like Roman soldiers and go around saying that they're fighting for Trump. That'd be so great.
Still having flashbacks to those Man in the High Castle episodes.
I was gonna
The
say
greatest LARP.
as far as statism goes, the best thing to counteract vanguardism is more vanguardism.
Whoever's autistically editing the notes, can you not? This triggering my formatting OCD.
So next, you want to talk about the He Will Not Divide Us?
Yeah, sure. Alright, so He Will Not Divide Us. Pretty sure most people are familiar with that. Got started back up in Albuquerque. And it's shut down. There were shots fired about a block from where the event was happening. And the organizers have decided to shut it down. Apparently the shots had nothing to do with the stream, though, but it's they keep getting divided. This seems to be a recurring theme with it.
The if I remember right, Albuquerque has like the highest, like by far, police shootings in all of America at the moment, and or at the very least out of its big capital cities. So it very well could have just been the police shooting someone.
Wow, I really too bad the lefties didn't protest there. That would have been great.
I skimmed the article. I don't think it was police. I think it was just some random shooting.
Well, I'm used to that around these parts. So.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think anything could be more ironic though than the New York one when they had to put up a wall. They only let like 3 people in at a time. It's like really makes you really jogging your noggin. Like can't just have all these people with different ideas coming into an enclosed space.
I wonder why you defaulted to that system.
Yeah.
If people have stuff to say about PewDiePie, I go for it. I'm not too wound up about that.
I think it's interesting how the alt-right is transitioning from people like Richard Spencer and shit saying that they're the leader to PewDiePie being this great Nazi figurehead.
Oh yeah, PewDiePie's my Stormfuhrer.
It's a lot like when lava cools, yeah. So, more desirable elements start to shine through.
But for anyone that doesn't know what happened, PewDiePie made some video where he got. I'm sure. If you really haven't seen this, they held up a sign that said like "Death to all Jews." He paid someone $5 to say it. It was really funny. He dressed up like a Nazi or some shit and was watching a Hitler speech, just as a joke in his video because like it's edgy and edgy stuff is funny. No matter how many times people say that edgy stuff isn't funny, people continue to laugh at it.
When you have like 10 million subs, anything can be funny to a population that big.
Dude, he's like 50 million.
50. Pardon me.
Yeah.
More than the state I live in times like 8.
More than the country I live in. But the media completely sidelined him, and we're calling him anti-Semitic, and then he was a Nazi, that he supported like these Nazi groups. The Daily Stormer, which is an alt-right news site, changed their title to number 1 PewDiePie fan site, and they took that as like PewDiePie is the new leader of the alt-right. Like these people are admitting it. Like
also in one of the attack ads or attack pieces that I think it was Wall Street Journal ran, they took a video from PewDiePie's channel about being taken out of context, took it out of context, and then used that to call him a Nazi.
Gotta love it when the people who scream about the need for context disregard any form of context.
Yeah, it's context denial. Yeah.
It's called hypocrisy.
I think this is great because it just red pills more people on how much the mainstream media lies. 12-year-olds, whatever his target audience is, hopefully sees this and it's like, wait, he's not a Nazi.
I think his target audience has been rising a little bit lately. Like, I think Orsor
Yeah.
has started watching him. I know I've read just anecdotal accounts from people who say they're in their late 20s or 30s and they've started watching him because he's gotten into some fun shit,
Yeah, I've checked out.
adult shit posting instead of Slenderman.
Yeah, no, I've definitely checked out his videos for the first time in probably 6 years since Slenderman came out. So
All right, last topic for politics: robot communism. Pierre, why don't you? This was your topic. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, hearing so much stuff about like machine learning and AI now, and this whole notion of what was the one group, the Venus Project, was that it? Where they kind of
Yeah,
talked about this quote post scarcity unquote society, which just means that like you have enough not to die, and whatever they think is enough for you, that's post scarcity. I can't get 1,000 Big Macs at a time because I don't need that according to them. So people think that robots are going to be able to provide everything in like 20 years. Which, to start off, every time that we've made a prediction like this through history, it's never turned out the way we thought it was going to. We thought that factories in North America was going to be like, it's the Industrial Revolution. This is what we're going to be. We're going to be working in factories forever. I'm like, no. Computers are going to take everyone's jobs. They created more of them. One of the big pushbacks I remember reading about was when Excel was first introduced, because before that there was people who actually did spreadsheets on paper, which is probably one of the worst jobs I can think of.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ!
like,
looking
No,
at
thank
looking at
you.
an old timey ledger, like an actual ledger. Yeah.
I play EVE Online, so I love spreadsheets, but doing them by hand sounds like the worst thing ever. But yeah, like it's never happened. And one thing that no one's brought up about this robot communism is that where are the resources to build these robots going to come from? They have a hard enough time sourcing rare earth metals to build cell phones, and you think they're going to be able to automate the whole world with robots when you don't asteroid mining is far in the future for any kind of uh like practical
Any sort of
use.
interplanetary mining is certainly like ways and ways out.
Yeah.
We'll just like appropriate all the materials we need from the rich, man. Like they don't need it. Like they're all rich. We'll just take their stuff and make robots.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, how are you going to build these robots? Where are you getting to get these materials from? Just to make the supply chain to be able to manufacture robots on a level that you could fit every factory to completely eliminate human labor on Earth would take like, longer, I think, than the timeline that they're predicting that everything's going to be automated by. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And there's also like the whole, hey, Comrade Cumstain, who the fuck's gonna program all these robots? Dude, like someone will just do it because that's what makes them happy, man.
yeah, exactly. Like Noam Chomsky, I remember the thing that he used, the example he used was that when you go to your friend's cottage and you have to warm yourself up, so you chop wood. You don't do it because you're getting paid. You do it because you have to, and you seek some enjoyment from it. It's like,
It's like you're deriving a psychic profit from not freezing to death.
yeah, you think a whole economy is going to run on people chopping firewood?
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, we could, if we hook up a generator to Mises's grave, just keep Noam Chomsky talking, and then we'd produce infinite energy from the rotations.
That's great. But yeah, it's just this ridiculous shit. And I think what skews a lot of people's view of AI and machine learning now is that everything is called AI. Like they say that, oh, Microsoft has developed a new AI. It's like, no, it's machine learning. It's just a program that gets maybe smarter the more that you use it. It gets more correct. It's not making decisions for itself based on an artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's making itself more accurate, not necessarily more precise per se.
Yeah. There's just all these things that no one ever talks about. They're just so hyped for. It's like the news is starting a Kickstarter for this, and everyone thinks it's great. And
People see a gyroscope and it's like, "Oh, it's spinning because it knows how to spin."
yeah, I don't deny that automation is going to become much bigger than it is. But at a certain point, it's going to be too expensive to buy robots because other people are buying them to do other things for them that are more valuable. Like, why are you going to automate someone working at a you know a factory if it's going to cost you, if there's a bigger factory that's going to buy more robots that it's going to make the company making them more money. There's going to be a limit where it's not going to be profitable to make them anymore.
Going to make a profit when nobody can afford to buy your product, and thus UBI was debunked.
Yeah. Oh, we should save UBI for another episode because there's lots of.
We'll do a UBI as like maybe a rainy day.
To just quickly slide UBI in though, in response to artificial intelligence and machine learning and stuff like that, I've seen on social media, everyone and their mom is always posting, "Oh, I sure wish that when this thing takes my job, I would actually get to enjoy my life and not have to worry about finding a new one," and things like that. A lot having to do with now the machine's just working for me, and now it's going to make me money. But it's like that would only work if you owned the actual robot, ma'am or sir. That's not how anything works, actually.
I mean, that's how it works when you automate a daily task at your job with programming. Now the program does your work for you, and you get richer from it. But I think the vast majority of people who are, all about the universal basic income, robo-communism, they're not smart enough to build robots or program. So,
yeah,
they're gonna have to figure things out for themselves.
Well, lots of them aren't, but there are some smart people that are super into AI that believe this shit. But it's just like Stephen Hawking talking about economics. He might be a genius in physics, but he knows absolutely nothing about economics. I don't expect him to either.
And Elon Musk was saying something about how we need UBI, but his company relies a lot on government subsidies and contracts. So it's not like he's the paragon of the free market that some people think he is.
I think one thing that happens with the free market, any kind of political idea, is that the enemies of it, or like the people that don't really understand it, choose their tribune of it. So they're like, oh, Elon Musk, he's like, he's a private space company, quote, private. He's the paragon of the free market. It's like, these are the people, like, the people that don't understand it. This is who they're choosing. People that do understand the free market aren't choosing Elon Musk to be their representative.
All right. I think that pretty squarely rounds out politics.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any remarks on that?
No, I mean, I would consider us pretty up to date on current happenings. So.
All right, let's move into tech. I've got one for this. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of history. In Ukraine, there's a region called Donbass. It is in the easternmost part of the country. It is the hotbed of the conflict between the separatists and the Ukrainian government. It has the two major cities of Donetsk and Lugansk. I'm probably butchering those. And that's been the hotbed of all the separatist activity. Two separatist commanders from the Ukrainian war have sort of risen to fame, infamy, prominence, for lack of a better word. Givi and Motorola. Givi, he was in the, I guess, semi-viral video where he's being interviewed by some journalists. They hear artillery coming in. Most of his troops run for cover. He calmly looks to where the artillery is coming in, takes a drag of his cigarette, and then just keeps talking. And he's just like, yeah, watch out for the shrapnel, it's probably hot. And just basically super baller. He apparently did some pretty bad stuff, though. I don't know about all that. Motorola was another popular one. I don't know too much about him. Also apparently did some bad stuff, shot grenade launchers at his own troops as a prank. So there's that.
Just a prank, bro.
It's just a prank. It's just an automatic grenade launcher prank. Okay, so how this relates to tech. So CyberX Labs recently uncovered a huge cyber reconnaissance operation that they're calling Operation Bug Drop. The technical side of how it worked is basically using some tricky social engineering and malware. They were able to gain control of a great number of computers in Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, Austria, and Russia, but the vast majority of them were in Ukraine. What they'll do is they'll gain control over the computer's microphone. Excuse me. And they'll use that to stealthily record conversations, sensitive data, etc. Encrypt it, and then upload it to Dropbox, hence they've bugged the room with the microphone, and they're using Dropbox, bug drop. And so the vast majority, something it looks like 80-90% of the targets were in Ukraine, and specifically in the Donbass region. They were working through something like 600 gigabytes of data a day. So this is a pretty serious group that's got legit funding.
Like the government?
And, well, I maybe Clinton could speculate on what government might be doing this, because, spying on Russia, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, and Austria, that, a lot of separatist Russia. I don't know what country specifically has those for on their sites.
I would say probably NATO in general, but through just the Five Eyes. I mean, the bug tapping, like the microphone tapping part, that actually sounds really reminiscent of just general NSA stuff. Just turning on webcams, turning on microphones and cell phones and whatnot. Although I see that they're using Dropbox as opposed to General Petraeus using just Google Drive with his mistress or whatever to share confident information.
Right. Well, what they would do is they would encrypt the information and then upload it to Dropbox, because Dropbox isn't recognized by a lot of corporate firewalls or
you're
filters
right.
or what have you.
Right.
So you can much more easily exfiltrate your data to Dropbox.
Smart.
That is.
So this is a pretty smart group. Now, where this connects to Givi and Motorola, well, at least hypothetically Givi, is Givi was recently killed. Motorola was killed sometime before him. And we know that Givi was killed in his office by some kind of explosion, probably like a rocket launcher, anti-tank missile, whatever. I don't know the exact details. He was a fairly high-ranking commander in the Ukrainian separatist force, so he probably had a computer in his office. Not every grunt is going to have a computer, but the commanders probably do. I'm wondering if this the article that I got this from it's very high level and it goes into a technical analysis. It doesn't go through who was affected in the attack. They just say 70 targets and some universities, some other stuff, infrastructure. But it seems plausible that Givi's death could have been organized in coordination with whoever's running this operation, because computer in his office, he's a pretty important character in the conflict. It would make sense. But I have no proof. So
yeah, it's interesting if a large enough group to pull off a attack like that. What was the attack vector on the computers anyway?
The attack vector, I think there's a couple of them. Let me see here. Okay, so they would craft phishing emails to prompt users to open a Microsoft Word document containing malicious macros. They actually had a pretty clever way to get around people disabling macros. They had it translates to, attention, this file was created in a newer version of Microsoft Office programs. You must enable macros to correctly display the contents of this document. So, for people who aren't infosec people, I imagine a separatist army commander wouldn't be, it seems entirely plausible that that's how this would go.
And then then the macros would run downloader and go through, collect data, and then exfiltrate.
Pretty crazy how cyber warfare is becoming such a thing. And this sound like, you know what? I believe this a lot more than the Russian hacking stuff in the US.
Well, right, because this is confirmed. There are operations taking place. They've found things in the wild. I'm purely speculating about whether or not Givi and Motorola got taken out through information gained by this operation, which is kind of interesting. It puts them on the side of Kiev, hypothetically, but then who would be on the side of Kiev against, primarily focused on Donbass and the Ukraine in general, but also Saudi Arabia, Austria, and Russia. Maybe Austria and Saudi Arabia are just trying to throw people off, but it's a very small percentage. I would have thought.
That is pretty weird.
Maybe.
It might just be collateral from the type of exploit. I'm wondering if maybe these were just tools that were, posted publicly, exploits that were posted publicly, or that were purchased through someone who was affiliated in and around the NSA or Five Eyes.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because whoever did this would have,
the article says 600 gigabytes a day of data that people would have to decrypt and go through and look for sensitive information. I would have thought that if some organization was doing that, they would be targeting, Russia and Saudi Arabia about equally. And they were focusing a lot on infrastructure and things of that nature.
Yeah, like what are you going to get from a microphone, like from a conversation, if it's not in...
Well, sensitive information, if people think they're not being recorded, then they could talk about it as though it were an encrypted channel. So
no, that's my point, is that it's on it's not an everyday person kind of exploit.
Right, so here's a list of some of their types of targets. A company that designs remote monitoring systems for oil and gas pipeline infrastructure, an international organization that monitors human rights, counterterrorism, and cyber attacks on critical infrastructure in the Ukraine, an engineering company that designs electrical substations, gas distribution pipelines, and water supply plants, a scientific research institute, and editors of Ukrainian newspapers.
Sounds like a pretty dank conspiracy, TBH fan.
Yeah, this sounds like a super dank conspiracy, TBH fan. Anyone else have comments on that?
I think you topped it off pretty well.
I think I pretty thoroughly paused that neg.
I agree.
Alright, sweet.
So we got one more tech topic if we want to go into the secondhand car story.
I know nothing about this.
You don't know anything about it?
Nope.
Alright, so here's a quick rundown. The guy, IBM security researcher, he had a car, and when he returned it to the dealer to trade it in, he deauthorized associated accounts, satellite radio, garage door openers, Bluetooth, etc., surrendering all the keys. But the mobile app for his car never got deauthorized. 2 years later, he still has access to the car. He can track the geolocation of the car, adjust its climate control, send the sat-nav systems new directions, or trigger the horn. But also, it can remotely unlock the vehicle.
That sounds like the greatest trolling opportunity of all time.
Yeah. And this is a security researcher who knows how many other people have just noticed, hey, that's pretty insecure, and just had a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many other people have that, they're going to check their apps on their phone to see if they can access these cars.
This I've noticed things like this happening with some of our cars that we rent at work. That will have Bluetooth one out that it automatically thinks to save people's phone information. But I also saw that one bit of video that Vice put out about some ex-NSA people who were just casually hacking into Jeeps and Chryslers that had a huge known remote access bug to them, which has since been patched. But this is basically resurrecting the same effect, but now with the mobile app. like that's put out.
Ooh, this reminds me of the project I had in university about a year ago, where I had to go through and do a project on the Internet of Things.
Oosh.
And everyone in my group was like, "Oh, it's gonna be the future. It's gonna be everything's the internet." I'm like, security flaws all over the place, all over the gaff, and this just, it continues to prove my point. And I would derail their conversation at the thing we had to present at, and be like, "So you guys heard about the airline flight, the commercial airline flight, where the guy hacked into the plane controls via the in-flight Wi-Fi? How about that? Cash me outside."
It's amazing. One thing I always thought this would be a great exploit. Is it like, I can talk about hypothetical exploits, right? Is that like illegal?
Yeah, sure.
I
don't think so.
I don't think so either. Or else everyone at DEF CON would be banned. I think a great way to go about this is as a exercise in a mental exercise would be Nest thermostats have tons of vulnerabilities in them, and most people's Wi-Fi as well has like, they're using WPA or whatever, not that secure. Would be in cold climates. Wait until people go on vacation and then lock their Nest thermostat off and call them and be like, "Hey, we have your heat off. Your pipes are going to freeze and cause like hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. Give us this much money in bitcoins, and then we'll turn your heat back on."
Huh, that's interesting. That's something that I haven't really considered in Florida, because that would just be
IoT ransomware.
We're gonna turn your heat off. Oh no, it'll be like 50 degrees.
Yeah, it's like real life ransomware. That'd be.
Ooh. That reminds me of that Mr. Robot episode.
Well, I was just gonna say, we get it. You saw Mr. Robot season 1 and 2, but.
Oh yeah. It's not where I got it from, but that's a good.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Internet of Things is terrible.
It's just unwanted too. Like, that's, as I'm using these cars at work, I'm thinking like, when I go to buy a car, and the one I have, dies one day, I really don't want a car that has all this like connected bullshit going on. Like, I really just want a simple car that's efficient with gas, safe, like reliable, not hideous, like pretty simple requirements. But these car companies, man, they're just packing it in there.
That reminds me of another thing that I think we were talking about it in just regular mumble. I think maybe on Meme Night we were talking about things like Amazon Echo and the Google Home, Alexa, order 500 dragon dildos confirmed. But yeah, like we were talking about how nobody in our community really wants to have these kinds of devices in their home, right? It's something that doesn't appeal to us, and I'd be really curious to see what sorts of vulnerabilities things like the Amazon Echo and the Google Home Assistant have. Have there already been DEF CON talks about that?
I don't think so yet. One thing I can think of off the bat is hacking into someone's stereo system and being able to play audio through it when they have an Amazon Echo while they're away or something, and ordering stuff to their house and then picking it up while they're not there. That would be pretty great.
Wow.
Ooh. Ooh. That's something else. I think that might actually be a theme of this year's DEF CON, but who knows?
I would really do a pretty decent DEF CON talk on that. Like,
yeah. If it's not, then we should put something together for that. Be the most amateur DEF CON talk
I was
ever.
Say, are we gonna make a live episode from the hotel room in DEF CON?
From the hotel room where epistemic violence gets hacked.
Internet of Things. Actually, one more thing about the Internet of Things for me is it just really grinds my gears that even with all these security vulnerabilities and shit, I still can't have an IPv6 address for Internet of Things devices. Like, I have to use a router with whatever they're called, subnet. Or not subnet, but like it's the router's assigning IPs to it, and not just have its own IPv6 that I can connect to from anywhere. That really, like, it would be so great if I could do that.
That really pauses your neck hole. Can you explain a little bit about what you mean by that?
Like, currently, if you want to access your devices offline, unless you use a proprietary service that they offer, that does the routing through their website, you can't just like SSH or connect into your home network without going through your router. And opening up ports on your router is not a great idea if you don't know what you're doing. So
Definitely
okay,
not
so
a
there's
good
no
idea.
yeah, having a IPv6 address, you still would kind of need to do it, but you would only need to forward one IP. They couldn't get access to your internal network, from how I understand it. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that, but that sounds like something I could ask some of my professors about. All right, good shit. That covers tech. We're tabling the MMEU side channel attack for next week because that's pretty in depth, but also pretty spoopy. Does anyone, Pierre, do you want to go on your Christ Cuck rant?
Yeah, that'd be great.
The atheist Christ Cuck rant? Alright, go for it.
Well, I never said I was an atheist. I've been taking the bread pill. But just one thing that I think a lot of us in here care about is culture. And one thing that I see as a huge degradation in culture, and that's kind of venerated by people, is this kind of celebrity worship with the Oscars going on now. There's a whole other bunch of really paused stuff going on with the Oscars, but that's not even the point of this. Is that we venerate not even artists that create something from their own, like from their soul, from being genuine. It's people that act in other people's movies. Like I think some acting performances can be great, but the vast majority of them are just showing up, saying words. Like it's not a. I don't feel for most movies that come out, it's not like going to an opera or seeing a great piece of film where you're moved by it. It's like, oh, that movie was all right, you ate popcorn
The
and
skill
texted
ceiling isn't as high.
And what's
Right.
that?
Like, the skill ceiling isn't as high.
Yeah, like
on acting.
I took acting lessons before in high school when I was in improv, and yeah, it was like it's not that hard to be. It's hard to be a successful actor because of all the networking and shit you need to do. But to be a actor, you just have to, there's a little bit of skill into it, but it's not insanely high. There's a reason that they pick up waitresses to do commercials and they become movie stars. It's not coming from a place of being genuine. And I think a perfect example in the month of February is Valentine's Day. It's supposed to be venerating a saint who martyred himself for the cause of Christianity or something like that. And you have like these great people who existed through time that like Christmas, Easter, it's all turned into this really hyper commercialized shit. And I'm a capitalist. I don't have a problem with people buying stuff. But I think one thing that libertarians have really dropped the ball on is using the market to define their morality and say that, oh, there's nothing wrong with only caring about money. That's just what the market, that's part of the market. It's like, well, your individual wants and desires are also part of the market because it's you acting as a human action.
Mm-hmm.
And it just we forgot so much about this. And I really enjoy the Christian and Catholic faith, but I don't expect everyone to. But even like at least find something that's like that has meaning. Even people that venerate these celebrities don't find meaning in it. They find maybe like signaling pleasure, yeah, but it's not anything deeper than that. And
I think
like,
you get a lot of
Westerns...
that from. Sorry, not to cut you off here, but
No,
I think you
ahead.
get a lot of that from like objectivism, and you get a lot of that from like Ayn Rand, which people, lo and behold, as libertarians usually encounter as like a transitional piece or as like a starter or primer into libertarian ideas.
Yeah. Also, kind of little bit undermines your point if you don't know what Saint Valentine did.
No, what I said is like what he did, but it's not. Yeah, it's not the exact details. He died a pretty terrible death, and then we celebrate him by and you know what? Even the thing, it's like, oh, Valentine's Day cards, buying things for your significant other. It's not focusing on love. It's not focusing on doing something kind. It's about buying something for them, and it's really starting to disgust me.
Mm-hmm.
and seeing this become more and more prevalent as things like religion dies. Although it's getting a bit of a resurgence, which is nice. But yeah, people have lost their morality and religion and have not looked anywhere else to find it. And that's what Nietzsche said, was that God is dead, and we should be looking to ourselves to make our own morals. But people forgot the second part. They're just like, yeah, God's dead, nothing matters, we're nihilists now, what are you going to do about it? And it's libertarians are extremely guilty of not seeking anything more than the market when it comes to meaning and existence and what it means to be human and what it means to interact with each other. They're just like, oh, it's an economic transaction. Like, yes, but an economic transaction is a human action. Focus on that part, not the economic part, if you want to be more than just an economist. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, actually, and specifically about Valentine's Day, I've definitely gotten, I've actually gotten that same response from a lot of other libertarians, even just regular statist libertarians, where the actual holiday of Valentine's Day is like this exceptionally overhyped, very commercialist, or consumerist rather, holiday that really serves no meaning, and no valuable meaning, for at least me personally. But I also like to think I'm kind of in your camp, where if it may not necessarily be Christianity per se, but having some higher code of morals beyond just like pure market forces, or the product of market forces, is to do with that.
I think the most meaningful holiday in North America currently for non-religious people is Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, normally they don't care about Christmas. That's just gifts, maybe a little bit of family. They're like, oh, they watch a Christmas movie and they're like, yeah, it's about family. Then they're happy when their family leaves because they don't want to put up with them. Easter, it's just Easter bunny, nothing more to that. Thanksgiving, they're like, oh, we should be thankful for what we have. And then there's people are trying to get rid of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, it was Black Friday the following night, but
then Black Friday and all the people protesting against Thanksgiving because they were mean to Native Americans and however long ago.
Although, to your point, though, about Thanksgiving, though, Pierre, I think that's kind of telling from a different perspective, in that it's meaningful in this sense, and I kind of notice this with both the travel at work, but also in my own family. You can always Amazon gifts to be sent towards your loved ones and whatnot during Christmas and whatnot, because that is just a transaction. But with Thanksgiving, people travel in masses for that holiday. And any airline statistic can show you that, mainly because you can't really replace having someone actually at a table with other family members eating and chatting and discussing and enjoying one another.
At least we haven't resorted to Skyping Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But I think that's important.
Does that activate your old Skyping a Thanksgiving?
Yeah, activated. That's a black pill, dude.
I was gonna say, activating your almonds, like heating up something in the microwave for Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
But no, I think it's telling, because I think Man in Time, who we definitely need to have on the show, but Man in Time pointed out that, especially in Anglo societies, family is like the core culture unit, from which people then spread out to other aspects of culture. Like family is hyper dominant in the Anglo sense, so it makes sense that for us, like, it's a very, very important aspect of how we do business with one another.
Your immediate family, that is, not extended family.
Oh yeah, sorry,
not your clan, but your family.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and Man in Time, who we will never get on the show. Maybe if we don't release episode 0. I like how we're on episode 2. I haven't finished editing episode 1, and episode 0 isn't released. Well, episode 0 is internally released, which was the point.
It'll happen.
Maybe.
But yeah, even like with Thanksgiving, it's a celebration of what material things you have. Like it still isn't.
Oh, I thought it was being thankful for a bunch of dead Indians.
Yeah.
It's celebrating your whiteness.
Now we don't. Now I don't have to build a fence in a tiny circle and then claim the entire world. Thanks, Pilgrim. You did the work for me.
But yeah, it's just things have been weighing on me lately. I'm done with the topic, but yeah.
No, I think that culture is definitely something, not only that Man in Time would love to speak on, but that I think is important to all of us in this crew, and it's something we can all speak to, coming from slightly different permutations of said North American culture. So,
I would love to get Man Time on here and then revive the fence argument.
Do we want to?
Yeah, that's.
Do we want to wrap up this episode and then proceed into post-chat discussion or post-episode discussions?
We've been going for about an hour 5 minutes now. So
60-minute or the 70-minute mark is a good one for podcasts, in my opinion.
Yeah, you want to talk briefly about beef, Pierre?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but all the beef that I buy where I live tastes like liver. It's just, it blows my mind. I've never had this anywhere else. Every time I've been in the States, I lived in Argentina for a while, and they had the best meat ever.
And everywhere I've been, it.
Yeah, the best meat. Never tasted like liver. Just in rural Canada, for some reason, it tastes like this, and it's just been like really bothering me. So I got like half a cow from a local farmer who is friends of my family, and we know them. And first day, when my mom grew up on a beef farm, and the tradition was that every time they slaughtered a cow, they would have a hamburger. I don't know why, but that's what we did. And it's like I take a bite into it, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad to not have meat that tastes like liver anymore. And it tasted like liver. So luckily I had a sirloin from it tonight, and it tasted amazing. It's just the hamburger, because it includes the round steak, which is a really heavily used muscle, which apparently will make it taste more livery, but I still don't know what's causing it. It's just like overworking it maybe does, but these farmed cows they buy at the grocery store shouldn't be tasting like that. It's so weird.
This makes me nervous as I am looking to pick up some beef from the market tomorrow, and incorporate that with some other ingredients into the thing I was planning with the spaghetti squash I bought. So,
ooh, yeah, it's nice. That's another thing we could do is do some like food stuff. Maybe I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do like a what did we cook this week section. But we didn't really have topics for that tonight.
Yeah.
I haven't been cooking as much recently. I had a couple busy weeks with exams.
I talked to Pierre about this in the form of making a cookbook or cook compilation of some kind, but a cockbook, essentially a tasty cock picture book for your coffee table. No, but making maybe a quick segment just about something if we've stumbled upon a neat kind of utilitarian recipe that's actually delicious and had some flair to it, might be actually kind of entertaining, if not informative, because that's something I'm trying to get into a little bit lately. So
yeah, there's a lot of that. Sig had a really good recipe from Kyrgyzstan called Gonfon. I found one recipe online for it, and it was pretty good. I will say though, the recipe makes it a bit spicier than I like it, so I use hot sauce, which is a little bit less concentrated. But it's
spice is degenerate.
I found it amazing.
Spice is not the white way, but
yeah, gotta love this. I honestly like to keep my spice levels at about toasted mayo on bread, white bread. So
my girlfriend actually got me some President Trump hot sauce with no PC added.
Energy.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's high energy. It's good capsaicin.
I just think that whole grain just has too much, paprika in it or something that makes my sides really ache.
And that's the activated almonds in the
Must
whole grain.
be.
But yeah. I'd love to do a cooking section on this.
I do genuinely have a recipe I'm going to send you both sometime after the show.
All right. Good shit, man. All right. If any closing remark?
Live free, die hard. Stay free, stay alive. I don't know.
Keep your stick on the ice. Gotta go deep. Get pucks in the back of the net. Work the D.
What's that one proverb from Jamaica you've been espousing a lot, Pierre?
Boyakasha, big up the west side, massive.
Exactly.
Easy now, Babylon. Been watching a lot of Ali G lately.
All right.
Babylon 5.
All right. Well, T-Zone hard, lay the shit on thick. This has been Epistemic Violence, episode 2, and I'll eventually edit this.